Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Career Catalyst sessions. I'm super excited to be here today after our brief summer break. So I want to thank you guys all for joining us and tuning in. We're thrilled to have Chris Sarlo, founder of Life Science Wealth, here today with us to explore the essentials of smart financial planning. So whether you're in grad school, industry, academia, or simply ready to take that next step, you don't need a six-figure salary to start building your future. You just need the right strategies. So Chris is going to share some practical tools and proven approaches to help you make more confident money moves that pay off long-term. So a little bit about Chris. Chris brings years of experience as a financial professional with a unique focus on the life science sector. He's passionate about helping people align career milestones with financial goals and has guided countless professionals in research, biotech, and academia toward financial security and success. So before we dive in here today, I do want to give a big thank you to biotech for sponsoring today's session. biotech is a leading resource for upskilling in the life sciences. They've trained over 17,000 scientists through their cutting-edge biotech workshops. So you can learn more about them at biotech.com. I also want to mention that today's session is part of the BioBuzz Community Talent Lab. So that's your go-to hub for career growth, job opportunities, and industry connections. So if you haven't already, I would definitely get on, join the Talent Lab, and you'll be able to stay connected and access more resources like this. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Annabelle. Thanks to you guys for having me, and thanks to BioBuzz for bringing me back. Hopefully you guys like the first session that I was a part of, and I can kind of expand on that a little bit more to chat today. When we kind of just talk about what we're going to talk about today as an idea is kind of as the title kind of said, is the first 5 years, right? It's going to be, when you're graduating from the programs, whatever you might be in, and what area of life science, and everybody kind of has to have a plan of what it's going to be. So we're going to get to that in 1 second. I'm just going to quickly go overview an overview of what you can kind of expect inside of the industry when it comes to that. So inside of life sciences, we are not kind of our parents back in the day where somebody would work for 40 years with kind of one company and then have a pension that's associated with it after the fact. Inside of life sciences, the average person is going to work for just shy of 8 different companies over the course of their career in a very nomadic sense. So very rarely does that one person even stay within the same city, that they've worked on for years. Some of them, many change states, many change geographic locations. A lot of people just kind of follow the dollar, so to speak. And one of the downfalls of the industry is a lot of people simply chase salary. And although salary is obviously an important content to the piece that's going along with it, salary can be very difficult to kind of figure out when it comes to it. Because a lot of people will say, I have this job here, I'm making $100,000 a year. I got offered a job in Boston, and they're going to pay me $110,000 a year. So I get a $10,000 raise by going to Boston, as an example. Well, simply put, the cost of living in Boston is about 40% higher than what it is, in the DMV area, as an example. So if you're in this area and it costs 40% more to go, but you're getting a $10,000 raise to get there, you're actually net negative. So you actually took a pay cut, even though your salary has gone up. So those are some of the kind of little things to kind of take up. When you go the opposite way and go down to like Research Triangle Park, as an example, as compared to the DMV, the average salary in Research Triangle Park is actually higher than what it is in the DMV. So you're actually getting a raise by going down there. And at the same time, the cost of living in RTP is about 35% lower than what it is in the DMV area. So not only are you going to get more dollar for dollar bang for your buck, you actually have a cost of living that's going to decrease, which is actually a much larger raise than what it is just based on the true salary when it comes to true cost of living and things along those lines. So when people are graduating, especially out of the programs that most people in life sciences are going to be, normally they're graduating with a graduate degree. It very rarely is it just kind of an undergrad degree when it comes to that. That being said, most people are coming out of school with much higher student loans, as an example, because they have their undergrad degree loans, they have their graduate degree loans, which are being added up on top of it. So inside of life science, as an example, 54% of all students that are graduating from the life science programs have student loans. The average student loan inside of these companies is about $71,000. So not necessarily a small number. And the average interest rate inside of those student loans is about 6.5%. So obviously, if you average, the average person is going to pay about $400 a month in interest, just interest alone on those student loans. And similar to like a mortgage, they're amortized over a very, very long period of time. So from 1 year to the next, most people are paying off very little principal of what's outstanding. So on a $400 payment, that's just the interest. So chances are your payment is going to be about $500. So only $100 every single month is actually going towards principal, and the rest is actually just going towards interest. So it takes an awfully long time to pay down those things, and you're paying interest for an extended period of time. So those are a couple of the little nuances that it comes to, being inside of life sciences. The next thing we're going to talk about is actually setting some financial goals. So a lot of people, especially when they're recently graduating, is like, how aggressive should I be with my student loans? And the answer is always going to be depends. Whatever people kind of ask me, it's always going to be depends, because it depends on what you want. It depends on your salary. It depends on your free cash flow. It depends on what your goals are. We always tell people the number one measurement that everybody should always be looking for. I see kind of articles on TV all the time, or reading, or LinkedIn, or whatever it's going to be. And it's always based on salary. It's always based on income level. And it says, if you were in the top 10%, 5%, 1% of the United States, this is how much you need to be earning. The simple fact is, as Annabelle kind of said at the beginning of it, it doesn't really matter how much you're earning. It's what you're doing with the dollars that you earn. And where most people don't believe me, and these are true fact numbers, is that 69% of all the millionaires in the United States make under $100,000 a year. And most people don't believe that stat. They think you have to own a company. You got to be making, got to be a CEO. I got to be making $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year to get up to those numbers. And the simple fact is, no, you don't have to be. It's if you do efficiently with what you have, and you plan accordingly and do what you need to do. The average salary in life sciences is $142,800. So if 69% of the United States can make it with under $100,000 a year, everybody, in my opinion, inside of life sciences should be a millionaire at some point in time in their life, and it should be continuing to grow at that point in time. There's no reason for it. Inside of life sciences, when it comes to net worth on a national level, we are actually below national standards when it comes to life sciences. And there's a couple different reasons for that. If you ever go to our life science wealth page on LinkedIn, we just did an article a couple of weeks ago called The Wealth Gap, and it comes up with a whole bunch of the different reasons why we are behind. One of the biggest reasons is because of grad school. Most people are starting to save and work and invest at age 22 upon an undergrad program where they're getting started. Most people in ours, they're not making a more significant dollar of income until, kind of either late 20s, early 30s to get it going. So when you think about things like the power of compounding as an example, people in our industry are normally 6, 7, 8 years behind that compounding number, where things could have started appreciating at a faster rate at an earlier time. And those catch up with you very, very quickly of what it takes for your future. Now, when it comes to salaries, when it comes to benefits, when it comes to all those different things, the other odd thing inside of life sciences is that the participation rate in 401ks, profit sharing, ESOP programs, all of those different things that are part of your benefit package, excuse me, a lot of life scientists don't participate in those events. And the more often reason that we hear is that my job is going to be a stepping stone to another job. So I'm not going to start because I'm not going to hit my vesting period in time. That potentially can be said. But the simple fact is the job might not be there, but you might get a promotion within your own company, which means you still could get your vesting period to kick in. Most times some people have a 12-month vest, some have a 36-month vest, some have a 60-month vest. So it depends on what you're doing. And also at the end of the day, they can never take away what you've put into your own retirement fund or your own 401k. So whatever it's going to be, you always get your money back, right? And then at the end of the day, if you're there long enough to hit your vesting period, you get all the vesting numbers that match on top of it. And I always ask people, would you ever take a pay cut at your own job? And I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever say yes. So when it comes to 401k, when it comes to ESOP, when it comes to all these different things, this is actually part of your total compensation structure. And if you are not participating in these events, you're basically telling your company that I don't want to get paid what I'm worth. And I don't think any of you would ever say, I want to take a discount to the value of what I bring to the table. I think it's a mistake. And I think most people should be having a higher active participation rate in those things. So that being said, when we're talking about goal setting, we use something which is called SMART goals. And what a SMART goal means is that it's going to be, so SMART means it's going to be specific, it's going to be measurable, it's going to be achievable, it's going to be relevant, and there's going to be a time frame to it. So when people are saying, I want to look at my financial future and their goal is I want to be rich, that has none of the SMART aspects available to it. That's just a statement when it comes to it. So what we would say is, I want to have $1 million in net worth by the age of 45. Then you got your specific, you got your measurable, is it achievable? Hopefully, yes. If you do stuff right, is it relevant? If that's what your goal is, then yes, it's very relevant. And it has a timestamp to it. So it says, I want to do this by this, right? So it's very specific and you're going to, in the ways that you're going to go. Outside of this, you want to have probably multiple different goals. So that's one specific goal that you have, but it's how am I going to achieve these different things? And we want to say, I'm going to achieve this by doing this. And this is where either if you're doing it self-wise or working with an advisor or a consultant like myself, to say, let's help define what those goals are. Because your goals are constantly going to be changing. And people think, I'm graduating at age 26, 27, whatever it's going to be. I don't care what my retirement looks like. We get that as consultants and as advisors. That's not going to be your number one priority. Priorities kind of change. And it's like, well, maybe I want to take a more active approach into paying down my student debt, or maybe I want to put money on the side to save for my first home, or to get married, or to have children, or whatever the different events can be. Everybody is different and everybody has a different priority to what those goals are. And if you think of the companies that you work for, if you're working in that measure already, or even when you're at school, your goal is to kind of graduate because it gets you to the next step. But you have different goals because you have different classes, right? And each one of them has different measurable pieces of what you need to do in order to pass, in order to get those grades, in order to go that thing. The same thing occurs in finance. You can have one primary goal, which is what it's going to be, but that doesn't mean you can't attack various different things. And the problem, if you only attack one goal at a time, everything else is being put aside, and there's always going to be an excuse to kind of never go back to that. So if you're talking about retirement, which, like I said, most 27, 28-year-olds don't really care about at this point in time, they're like, well, my priority is paying off my student loan. And then my priority is saving for a house. And then my priority is getting married. And then my priority is increasing my lifestyle. And then my priority is, if you get to age 55, when the kids are actually done school and, ready to go, you can't start your retirement planning at age 55 and expect it to be completed by age 65. That power of compounding is going to be gone and lost, and all of those different things. So the smart people who have become rich over time and become millionaires, by contributing to your 401k plan as early as you possibly can, as an example, that hits on multiple goals. And when your company is contributing to your retirement account on your behalf because of a matching program, that is less that you have to worry about later in the future, because they've dumped all this money in over the course of your career for you. So as an example, if you wanted to be a millionaire and you started at age 50, it would take about $6,500 a month from age 50 to 60 to be a millionaire by 60. If you started through your 401k plan and you started at age 25, as an example, to get to that same spot, it only takes $300 a month, right? Very, very different. And if it's your $300 that's going towards that plan, but your company is contributing half of it on your behalf to what that future goal is, means you actually only have to contribute $150 if you got a true dollar for dollar match program. So depending on where you're working and things along those lines. So instead of needing $6,000 a month because the can has been kicked down the street too long, it only takes you $150 a month to do it that way, because the company is giving you the rest of it. Great. Now I can take my cash flow of what I don't have to use on other items, and I can put it towards my student debt. I can put it towards saving for a house and marriage and children and all those other pieces that go along to it, because I know I got my coverage from work and from different things along those lines. So it creates a much better understanding of compounding, of hitting multiple goals, of having a truly better lifestyle later down the road. And at the end of the day, when it comes to finance, people are going to kind of take a look at themselves when they hit that, that middle ages type of thing, when they're, in their 40s and things along those lines. And most people say, I'm kind of stuck. I'm in a rut. I'm in the rat race. I can't leave my job, all these different things, because they need money to earn. When you get to that 45-ish age of all these kind of things, what you basically want to be able to ask yourself is that, am I working for money, or is my money working for me? And if you start early enough and put those things in place, the amount of stress relief you're going to have at age 45, when you've had that ability of compounding, where things are working for you, where money is working on your behalf to continuing to grow, your stress level compared to everybody else is going to be so dramatically lower that the earlier you start and the earlier you get things ready to go, the easier your future life is going to be. And at the end of the day, when you're 27, 28, 29, and you're first starting into the program, if you sacrificed a little bit of lifestyle choice for your first 4 or 5 years and put money towards investments, towards, like I said, the down payment on the house, towards paying off your student loans, to all of those different things, and you took a little bit of break on lifestyle choices, when lifestyle becomes really important, when you're a little bit older, you're going to be shocked by how much of a lifestyle bump you can get later down the road because you sacrificed a little bit earlier, right? You don't need to graduate and have a Porsche as your first car or have a Mercedes as your first vehicle. I've seen a lot of people get signing bonuses from their first job. And, I got a $70,000 signing bonus, so I'm going to buy a $60,000 Tesla as my first car, or whatever it's going to be. Well, there goes the signing bonus, and it's all gone. It's all in a car now, which is a depreciating asset, which means you're never going to be able to sell that car for more than what you paid for it. So your value is actually dropping from those different things. So these are the small little things that it's amazing what it can do to build your future growth, your future life, your future you of what it's going to be. And another article we wrote that we talked about during the wealth gap is, we said, if you've ever been on a flight before and they go through the security procedures on once you're on the flight, it always says, put your face mask on first, because you are the most important person to you. People, you're going to say your kids, you're going to say your spouse, you're going to say all these different things, but you need to be there in order to enjoy your children, your spouse, everything else. So we always tell everybody to pay yourself first because you are most important. Pay yourself a certain percentage of your income. The estimate is around 10% of your income goes towards you first, and then lifestyle becomes everything after the fact. So if you make $100,000 a year, save 10 of it for yourself, you got 90,000 left. Say 90,000 is what I can afford for my car, for my house, for my life, for my travel, for all of those different things. 90,000 is the number, not 100, right? If you're contributing to an ESOP program and it's a 6-6 match program, your 6 plus 6 equals 12. So you're already ahead of the game, which means you don't necessarily have to save 10 because your company is saving some of that portion for you. That gives you, once again, more money for bump and lifestyle and different choices because you're still saving more than that 10% number. Somebody else is giving you the money. Just makes life easier, right? So these are all the small little things that you should do over the first couple of years to kind of set yourself up for a much, much better system into the future, right? As you kind of get older and as things go in, there is a real system which is called lifestyle inflation. And we see this all the time. I get a promotion, I get a bonus, I get this, and you end up spending more than the bonus was on a lifestyle creep, right? So we've seen clients that have come in and made decisions and things along those lines, like, I got a $20,000 raise, so I'm going to go buy a new house. And what people don't realize, a $20,000 raise is great, and it sounds like it's a lot of money. But once you take the taxes off and once you get to what's free cash flow in there below you, right, you're talking about a couple $100 per paycheck is all the difference of it, what a $20,000 would raise would be. But they end up going to buy a house where, if we look at today's numbers as an example, interest rates are much higher. The value of housing has gone up dramatically. So they want to get that newer, bigger, better house to have that lifestyle creep. But they end up spending almost $1,000 a month more to get that lifestyle. Right? So if you got a $20,000 raise, which is only affecting you at about, $700 a month, but you're buying a new house that's $1,500 higher, $2,000 higher, plus inflation. So your food has gone up, your cost of living has gone up, entertainment has gone up, all those other things have gone up. But now you have less free cash flow because most of it is going towards a lifestyle creep. You've outspent your raise, and you're actually lowering your future ability of what your life is going to look like later down the road. So if you have a good advisor, if you're talking with people, literally walk through the numbers with them and see how it's going to affect you, not only today, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What is going to be that sole purpose of what you're looking for? And what we say at the end of the day, like I said, back to the SMART idea is, a goal without a plan is a wish, right? There's nothing specific. There's nothing concrete. I want to be rich one day. That's not a goal. It's a wish. There's nothing outside of it. So, like we said, kind of understand where your goals are, map out what your goals are, map out what you're trying to achieve. Not everything is going to be in there for, when you're first starting out, because your goals are going to change over time. But have an ability to alter your plan that goes along with it, and use those different things that are going to be available to you as income increases, as life increases, as all those different pieces that go along with it, to make your future you just that much better. And no matter where it's going to go, if you're constantly looking and adapting and switching to what's going to be better for you, then you're going to have a great life. And this industry is very dynamic. It is very thought-provoking. It's very cool to see what science is coming down the pipe into the future. I find it absolutely fascinating to see that. And like I said, it is extremely well paid. So you have all of the abilities to have an absolutely phenomenal life in your future of what it's going to be. And I have no concerns that most people, if they do stuff right at an earlier age, and get into that mindset about me, myself, my family, what it's going to be, then everybody inside of our industry should be having an unbelievable job, career, and life. And at the end of the day, when we see downturns like we've seen in the last couple of years where NIH and FDA and all these companies have had some major cuts, you have the ability to withstand those bad turns that say that, I've saved some money, I've done this, I've done that. And then you adapt to what your current situation is. And instead of going into panic mode of what could be happening, yes, it's a stressful event. And yes, there's emotion to it. And yes, all those different pieces that go along with it. But if you have somebody who's there by your side to kind of walk you through and say, okay, this is how we're going to handle your current situation, it's going to buy you time. It's going to buy you options. It's going to buy you different things to wade through that until you're ready to kind of take that next step, see what offers are on the table and what it's going to go. I remember when, the FDA and NIH made their massive cuts. 1 week later, if you were on realtor.com, there was like 1,500 new homes in and around the DMV area that had been put up for sale because people had to make that much of a drastic change to their life very, very quickly because of their job entailment of what it was going to be. And we never want to be able to see that. We never want to upend people from their homes, especially when they have children, especially when they have all these different events, because then it's school, then it's all the other pieces that go along with it. If you start planning in advance and getting yourself ready, you can withstand any storm that's going to come your way. And then you can see the light at the end of the tunnel because you've worked through it and you got this ability to be there later for your future. And at the end of the day, like I said, when you don't have that stress on you, it's amazing what the future can hold for anybody inside of this industry.